equalitarianism. But wait a minute, no, it's not that at all. Turns out it was all a lie. It was a ruse. The revolutions were for the purpose of bringing in the final revolution, which is Brave New World. And the final revolution, within 5 pages, is a rigid hierarchy. In detail, the insane text of Aldous Huxley, Brave New World. And we're doing that because in 1932, he wrote a fiction story that predicted everything that we're going into and where we're going in an even more dismal future if we don't stop this, if we don't wake up to what's going on. And we're talking about the philosophical influences for this dystopian society. And he says that, one thing that 1984 didn't get right in his thesis is that it's too heavy-handed, it's too tyrannical, and it's not as effective to control human beings by this top-down model. A better model of control would be to offer the promise of liberty and freedom through pleasure and happiness. Right? So control people through their base desires and through pleasures, and that's a much easier way, a much more effective scientific means of control through the promise of freedom and liberation, he says. And he says that technology and science will give us this, and it's based on the notion of utilitarian happiness principle. Now, what is that? And this is precisely why nothing changes in the left-right dialectic. Because the explanation of what is really running things in Brave New World tells you that the left-right is a fake dialectic. Going back to the French Revolution, going back to when in the French Revolutionary government, they had a provisional government that they set up in the tennis court government. And on the left side of the tennis court were the left-wing revolutionaries known as the Jacobins. On the right wing of the tennis court are the right-wing revolutionaries known as the Girondins. They're both revolutionaries, but they're disagreeing over whether it should be a total communist, Jacobin, Illuminist style collectivism or a mercantile-dominated capitalist revolution.
Can't you see what's going on with us? Can't you see that we control
equalitarianism? But wait a minute, no, it's not that at all. Turns out it was all a lie. It was a ruse. The revolutions were for the purpose of bringing in the final revolution, which is Brave New World. And the final revolution, within 5 pages, is a rigid hierarchy. Scammery at work in what Huxley calls the final revolution. Why does he call it the final revolution? Well, he calls it that because he says that this Brave New World scenario is the culmination of the last several centuries of revolutionary thought and philosophy. He includes the Protestant Reformation. He includes the science evolution. He includes the Enlightenment. Then the French Revolution. And then all the revolutions of the 17 and 1800s, all the way up to the present revolution of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, or technocracy. Right. So the same thing Klaus writes about in his 2018 book, Fourth Industrial Revolution, is the same thing that's being talked about in this book almost 100 years ago. And he says that what we had to do was exchange beauty and aesthetics and freedom for control and social stability. So that's why there is always the promise of security when you trade over your liberties. Now, it's a false trade-off. You don't actually come out better because you never actually get the security that they promise, because actually the security here is the security of the biomedical security state, which is predicted in this book a long time ago. It's a scientific caste system. But hey, wait a minute. I thought liberty, equality, and fraternity. I thought since the French Revolution, we were told that the revolutions were leading us to the world of perfect egalitarianism. Perfect. It's both. He says that this will bring order out of chaos eventually, and we will have a perfectly controlled world where there is no freedom, there is no aesthetics, there is no beauty. The totalitarian state maximizes sexual degeneracy and sexual pleasure to control the population. And what have we seen in the last several years since the 1960s countercultural revolution up to today with the so-called trans revolution? What is all of that? That is womb-to-tomb conditioning and control. Ultimately, Huxley says at the end of his introduction, this is the rebranding of eugenics and control. Equalitarianism. But wait a minute. No, it's not that at all. Turns out it was all a lie. It was a ruse. The revolutions were for the purpose of bringing in the final revolution, which is Brave New World. And the final revolution, within 3 pages, 5 pages, is a